What's up, everyone? So today I'm going to be showing you how to play Talkin' About You. The Rolling Stones version of it is usual, but it's a Chuck Berry song originally. Chuck Berry released it in 1961. The Stones covered it in 1965, and I think it was first on their UK Out of Our Heads album, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, I'll go over Keith's part, which is basically all the guitar in the song. What's Brian's part, which is super simple as it gets, one chord. And then I thought for fun I'd just go over the bass part of Bill Wyman that he plays. So fun fact, the bass part obviously originally in the Chuck Berry song I think was came up with by Reggie Boyd, Chuck Berry's bassist. But that bass line, Paul McCartney plays an identical bass line. I don't know if Paul McCartney got it from it, but I Saw Her Standing There was released in 1963, so 2 years later, and has literally the exact same bass part, exact same key, I'm pretty sure, and exact same tempo. So I think Paul McCartney originally heard this song, was like, I'm going to use that bass part, but I'll go over that as well. But without anything else, without any further background, I think I'll go into the song. So first I'll go over the intro that Keith plays, and it goes like this. That last part's going into the verse, but it's pretty simple. You start off with an open E note, and then you use your ring finger to slide up to the 7th fret, and then you play the 5th and the 7th frets on the, or 5th then the 7th fret on the A string. So it goes. And then you can play the 5th fret just on the D string, or if you want a grittier sound, do the D and the G. So all together. And then they walk it back down, going 7th on the A, 5th on the A, 7th on the E, 5th on the E, and then you go into the verse, which is an A. So. So that's the intro. You only play that once, and now I'll go into the verse section for what Keith is playing. And it's pretty simple. The verse is one chord, it's just A, and you play A 6 times in a row. And all Keith is doing is having an A position up here, basically the bar chord. Keith likes to play, a lot of people learn the bar chords like this, where you're literally barring it, which is where it gets its name, I think, for the A chord. But Keith likes to play it like this, where you have your index finger on the 5th fret of the B and the E string, middle finger on the 6th fret of the G, on the D string on the 7th fret you put your ring finger, and then you mute the A, and I guess you can, since it's A chord, you can play the A open if you want, but then thumb is getting the 5th fret of the E string here, and you just go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So he's just playing that along. Paul muting it, and there's a lot of echo and reverb on the track. As there is with a lot of '60s tracks, but. And that's all there is to Keith's verse part throughout the entire song. And then you go into the chorus where it says "Talking About You," and when he says "about," that's when you start this little move. And for that, what you're doing is you're sliding your ring finger starting on the 7th fret of the G string, sliding up to the 9th. And then behind it you have your middle finger on the 8th fret of the B string. So you slide, and then immediately on that same downstroke picking, you hit the 8th fret of the B string. And then you go back to this A here. And And then after you've done that 4 times, you do that same slide, but then go up to here to the D string, or sorry, the D chord, which is, instead of having your index finger rooted on the 5th fret, it's on the 10th. And then after you play that twice, so you play the A 4 times, D twice, then you do that slide 1 more time, and then you play the E here. Now you can do it with the open E and just your index finger on the 7th fret of the A, because they're both E notes. It just depends on how full you want the sound to be. In the recording, it doesn't sound super full, so sometimes it sounds just like he's just doing the 7th fret of the A string. But yeah, it ends like that. Oh, sorry. So all together. And so that's the chorus, and after the chorus, each time there's this little lick that goes. And so what he's doing there is he's sliding on the G string from the 15th fret, I think this is. No, the 17th fret. The 17th fret to the 19th, and then he's playing with his index finger on the 17th fret of the B string. And then he's playing that 19th fret on the G string again. So, and maybe a little vibrato, you know. And so he plays that pretty much after every chorus, which leads into the verse again, where, you know, he's just going. So you have that first verse in the first chorus, then you have the second verse, and then the second chorus, and then after the second chorus you have the solo. So, you know, after this chorus it goes, and then it goes into the solo. So I'll just do a quick run through of the solo, and then I'll show you how to play it. Alright, so that's the solo. It's pretty short. I started off with the end of the chorus bit that we have been playing. But then after that you go into the 17th fret of the D string and have some vibrato on that. And then you play, the 19th fret of the D string. Then you play the 17th fret of the G string. And then you go back to that 19th fret of the D string. So it's just a back and forth. Next step is you walk it up. You go 19th on the D, 17th on the G, and then 19th on the G again, bending up. So all together we have. And then this is one of Keith's things he likes to do a lot, is come down from the bend. And go 1, 2, 3. Which is going from the 19th on the G to the 17th on the G, back down to the 19th on the D. So from the top. And then he plays that 17th on the G and 19th on the D right after that. And then waits and then plays that same thing again, the 17th on the G and the 19th on the D. So from the top. Alright, and you move down here to the 7th fret of the D string. And then you bend up the 7th fret on the G string. So 7th fret on the D, then 7th fret on the G string bent up. And then you do that same thing where you bend down. Play this the 5th fret of the G, and then you play back to the 7th fret on the D. And then obviously you play the 5th fret here on the G string, and then the 7th fret on the D string again. And then you play that 7th fret on the D string again. Play that 5th fret on the G string again. Back to the 7th fret. I know it's kind of a lot of back and forth. Back to the 7th fret on the D string. Then down to the 5th fret. So from the top. Then you go to the 7th fret on the D string again, and then back down to the 5th. So from the top. Then you do the 7th fret on the G string, 5th fret on the G string, and then 7th fret on the D string. Sorry. And then you go 5, 7 on the D string, 5 on the G string, and then this is the ending part here where you bend up the 5th frets on the B and the E string. Messed it up there at the end, but that's kind of the gist of it. May take a couple times to go through, but I really tried to break it down there. It's not a super long solo, so it's kind of, you'll pick up on it pretty quickly. So after the solo, then there's another chorus, and then that chorus is the same, where it's going. And then the end, instead of going to that slide up to the 19th, 17th, and back, it has that same beginning. But then, instead of just ending at that 19th on the G, you go down to the 17th on the G, 19th on the D, then back to the 17th on the G. So that's all you do there, and then after that you go into verse 3. Same thing there, where it's that palm muted bar chord with a lot of echo and reverb. And then after that you go into the next chorus, and after that you go into the outro, which is just Keith fiddling around here. So for the outro, Keith has a few licks that go something like this. So they're pretty simple, very similar sounding. So the first one goes. So you bend it up on the 7th fret of the G string, bend it down, 5th fret of the G string, 7th fret of the D string. Then you go back to the 5th on the G, then back to the 7th on the D. Then after that, you slide your middle finger up to, okay, yeah, it's definitely this one. You slide your middle finger up to the 9th fret of the G string, and then you have your ring finger on the 10th fret of the B string. So. And then after that, you go back up here to where we were kind of during the solo, and you have your ring finger on the 19th fret of the G string, and you're doing that same pattern, except, you know, you have the bend up, bend down, go to the 15th fret of the G string, and then when you come to the 19th fret of the D string, you just play it twice. And then you come back down here to the 5th fret area, and you do that same bend, starting with the 7th fret of the G string. It's that same pattern. And that's pretty much it for Keith's part. So for Brian's part, it's pretty simple. You only play it during the verses, and you know, it's just one chord, and it's an A7 chord. So you can play it down here, you know, a typical A7, whichever way you want to play it. But it sounds like on the recording that he's up here playing it like this. And basically it's like a C chord shape, starting with your ring finger, or a C7 shape, starting with your ring finger on the 12th fret of the A. So you got your ring finger on the 12th fret of the A, your middle finger on the 11th fret of the D. You got your pinky finger here on the 12th fret of the G string, and then on the 10th fret of the B, you have your index finger. So, and the other two, this one, high E muted, low E muted. And that's the pattern you just use for strumming. And that's all there is to Brian's part. Now I'll get to the kind of interesting part, Bill Wyman's bass line, which goes. Which, you know, if you've ever heard I Saw Her Standing There, you know, it goes. And so it's basically the exact same pattern. I Saw Her Standing Here is an E, and then this is an A, but Bill Wyman goes a little bit slower than the Chuck Berry recording, which is at the same pace as I Saw Her Standing There, but it goes. So you do twice on the A string, once on the 4th fret of the A string, open again, what is it, 7th fret, open again, then 5th, then 4th. And you want your picking pattern to be up and down. You don't want it to be like, I mean, I guess you can if you want, but it's a lot easier to go. So that's the pattern, and Bill Wyman does not stop playing that pattern the entire song. So the verses obviously are just A chords 6 times in a row, or 6 bars in a row. In the chorus, that's the only variation you get, where you have 4 A chords in a row, then 2 D chords, then 2 E, and then back to A. So all you're doing is just changing strings. You're playing that same pattern, then you go to the D string, play the pattern, and then you go to the E string and play the pattern twice. So it goes. And you're going back to the A there at the end. So that's all there is to it. You know how to play the bass line, you can play the rhythm, you can play the lead on this. I hope this video was helpful. Leave a comment if you think I left something out or missed something. But good luck to you in learning to play this one.